Log number 6. Hours, 12 at noon. Codename of test project, Beta Centauri. Hey, our test of the Neo World program from Jabberwock seems to have been a failure. Turns out, it's not a good idea to even touch anything that Junko Anashima left behind, let alone a machine capable of erasing someone's being. Even if her tamperings were fixed, this was a disastrous outcome. Our defense systems failed due to how sure the ultimate engineer was of his success. We didn't even bother adding extra security. We sure paid every dime for this mistake. In my previous log, I've said this was a success. Data-wise, it's the closest to a real game we could have gone to. Because it was a death game, similar to mine in several aspects, the data provided new information with regards to the behavior of the tourists during that tragedy. It was also, ironically, a successful proof of concept to the members of this new future foundation that perhaps through more safe analysis and simulated games, we can somehow prevent future real death games and save countless lives. But to me, in any other aspect, calling this a success sickens me to my very core. It was like watching the worst moment of my life all over again, yet this time I was able to do something about it. The volunteers haven't awakened yet, and I've been sitting down for the last 3 days making sure those that awake are taken care of. My artificial intelligence Senor Kuma provided me real-time data of the game while this was happening. My intervention would have been seen badly regardless due to Spamden's leak of my personal log data from this project. Without context, I knew people wouldn't care or would probably hate me. Not that I cared myself to begin with. My only objective was to get them out without putting my life in danger. Once that was possible, the rest happened as it was. Log number 7. Hours, 5 in the evening. Codename of test project, Beta Centauri. Hey, slowly but surely, some of the volunteers are waking up. The first one to wake up was Teruya Otori. This was by no means a nice meeting between the former bounty hunter and myself. But without too much energy, he just went and grabbed a chair, as if he was waiting on someone specifically to wake up. Not a single word came out of his mouth. To our surprise, a bunch of screams were heard around the area. Turns out the next one to wake up was none other than the nurse Mikan Tsumaki. Seeing Teruya, she was confused, and checked around everyone's pod. Eventually we calmed her down, and explained that we were waiting on others. The next one was arguably the least peaceful one. As soon as Mitsuru woke up, she headed straight towards me with a death stare full of hatred and above all else, sorrow, though my bodyguards were already expecting this to happen due to her hostility during the final trial. Teruya had to intervene and calm her down a notch, and wait for the other tourists to wake up. No one else woke up today. As much as I'd like to stay awake another day, my eyes won't allow it. I'll come back tomorrow. We offered the 3 volunteers a bed to rest and food to quell their thirst and hunger. Mitsuru was the only one reluctant to accept, but eventually she did nonetheless. Log number 8. Hours, 7 in the evening. Codename of test project, Beta Centauri. Hey, turns out while I was asleep, a pretty big surprise had happened. Lawyer Phoenix Wright was staring down at one of the pods and awaiting for Jin to wake up. All 3 other volunteers were still in the building, waiting on their fellow volunteers to see the rise of the sun. From the few volunteers willing to talk to me, I learned that so far everyone who had awakened retained their memories from the simulation as well as prior to it. The people who made it to the final trial, such as Teruya and Mitsuru, remembered everything clearly. However, those who died, such as Phoenix and Mikan, described their memories as starting off clear, but getting more and more hazy closer to the day they died in the simulation. The next one to awake was Futaba Sakura. She seemed confused and gave our team a big lecture on how to protect security devices. Not that we really listened to, but we sent her to talk to our head of engineering, since he could use a lecture or 2 for this damn mess. I offered the volunteers some breakfasts and some of them were clearly hungry. To my surprise, only Mikan accepted such offer. An unexpected pod opened, and out of it was Shin Tsukimi. Confused as to why he woke up, Teruya sat him down and explained the situation. Shin started to panic and believed So would pick them as retribution. As So had not left his pod, he decided it was time to call it a day and everyone went to sleep. Though Phoenix refused to it, staying with the pod of Jin the whole night. Log number 9. Hey, it's been at least 3 days since Shin woke up. Phoenix barely leaves to go to sleep awaiting for Jin, or at least Garu, to wake up. I've explained to him that the protocol will ensure at least half of them will awake, but it isn't exact science as to when they would do so, due to the nature of the shutdown. But to be honest, seeing Jin Ibushi's pod suddenly light, and him awake, was a big sign of relief for everyone. Phoenix's eyes lighted up with him waking up, and they both gave each other a huge hug. Jin, however, asked about Garu and Sora, neither of which had awakened just yet. So Phoenix finally took my offer from breakfast today. Teruya kept staring down at Nagito's pod, waiting for him to wake up. He didn't seem as if he was waiting for a friend, but rather as if he wanted to make sure he stayed inside. No clue if that's what he really feels about him. But just as I was about to call it a day, Chiaki's snoring alerted us. Turns out she had been sleeping for a couple of hours and no one really noticed her waking up. Which means only one person remained. Log number 10. Hey, Mitsuru and the gang already left. It's been a week and the only one remaining is Teruya and Futaba, who decided to stay to help. Again dead-sighted on 2 particular pods. Haru's and Nagito's, Teruya was just focused on whoever woke up. But to his surprise, another pod had awakened. Makoto Nagi woke up with a headache from his pot. I kinda noticed Teruya grip his fist, but at the same time do a sigh of relief, and then leave the room for good. Makoto was struggling to talk for a bit with Futaba, but she was crying out of relief and hugged him probably more than he wanted to. Looking at the other pods, one by one started failing out. He shut down the ones that did, and kept the ones that didn't to give them a chance, but eventually they all faded. These were our victims. I ordered a message to their families. Futaba started to pack up, as I started to notice something was odd about Makoto. His mannerisms were a bit familiar, but I couldn't quite catch what it was. It felt as if he was an old friend of mine. The last thing I heard from them was Makoto saying how lucky he was to survive.